Dear friend, imagine that since we were children, when the teachings of our parents, the messages of our schools, and the images from the media were deeply engraved in our minds, we were gradually programmed by patterns, unconscious beliefs that created a system of thinking that we later called the matrix. That matrix not only determines how we perceive ourselves, but also shapes how we understand the world around us. And in that system, there is always a big question hidden. A question that makes many souls dare to give up illusions to find the profound truth. Why don't the enlightened ones explain it all? Indeed, absolute wisdom cannot be expressed in words, not because the enlightened ones want to hide anything, but because language is inherently incapable of containing a truth that is beyond the limits of ordinary perception. When we try to express it in words, everything becomes a distorted version, an incomplete interpretation of the truth. Words, although powerful tools, when used to enclose the entire ocean of wisdom, are like a small cup, unable to contain the vastness and infinity of reality. We are familiar with how humans use language to share knowledge, but what the enlightened ones teach us is that things that are beyond the capacity of logical thinking, the profound values of truth, cannot be encapsulated in any system of language. As soon as we give wisdom a name, it becomes something else, defined, misunderstood, losing its vitality. This is why masters, those who have reached the state of enlightenment, often avoid answering metaphysical questions directly. They choose to remain silent or just guide their students through exercises and experiences so that the students can discover their own truth. They understand that if they try to convey it in words, the listener will only receive it in their own way, based on their own experiences and beliefs that have been accumulated over time. And therefore, every answer, no matter how perfect it seems, is only a small piece of the truth. Imagine that when you ask about the universe, about existence after death, or about the absolute nature of reality, any answer will bring acceptance, a misunderstanding, because even if you say that there is existence after death, people will cling to it as an absolute truth, while reality is beyond any concept of being or non-being. Just as when you say that there is nothing after death, people will fall into a state of nihilism, which is also not the truth. The things we say in words are just expressions of the human mind, a brain programmed for linear thinking, always looking for cause and effect, always trying to impose order on the world. But the absolute mind does not work that way. It has no beginning, no end, no constraints, time or space. That is why when enlightened masters refuse to answer directly, they do so not because of ignorance, but because any answer will be modified, distorted by the way the human brain works, because people can only approach truth at their own level of awareness. If you are still looking for answers outside, if you need a final explanation for metaphysical questions, then you are probably not ready. Because truth cannot be communicated completely through words, it can only be experienced, realized directly through the deep silence of the mind. Imagine that, instead of listening to long lectures, you sit down yourself, be silent, and let your mind experience the truth for itself. That is how truly enlightened masters impart wisdom, not by talking, but by letting the learner see for himself, feel for himself, and thereby awaken for himself. Remember the story of Bodhidharma, the founder of Zen Buddhism. When he arrived in China, he did not use long words to explain the truth. He simply sat in meditation facing a wall for 9 years, without saying a word. Those around him may have looked at him with suspicion, considering him crazy. But those who were fortunate enough to recognize him would understand that he did not need words to convey the truth. His presence itself became a profound teaching, showing that the truth does not lie in words but in silence, in the stillness of the mind. Enlightened people do not try to establish a belief system, do not build a rigid doctrine for others to follow. They understand that when truth is defined, when it is framed by words, it becomes distorted, limited. Each person has a personal database, accumulated from life experiences, and when they hear something, they automatically interpret it in their own way. This explains why, despite the many books, lectures, and analyses on enlightenment, no one has been able to give a final answer, a perfect explanation of the ultimate truth. Truth is beyond words. It can only be realized in the direct perception of each individual, through the process of continuous experience. Another example, when you listen to poems praising love. If you have never loved fully, all you understand is still theory. Similarly, when someone talks about enlightenment, if they have never experienced the moment of awakening, what they say is just a repetition of concepts learned from others. Therefore, one can argue about philosophical or scientific issues, but if they have never experienced loss, pain, and liberation, they will never understand the true truth. Great masters often do not communicate in words. They lead their students through experiences, through their own presence, so that the students can face the truth for themselves and realize for themselves that any answer expressed in words is only an incomplete version of the truth. There is a common misconception that if someone knows a lot, if they read a lot of books, they will understand everything about wisdom. But in fact, the more knowledgeable people realize the limitations of thinking, the more they find, I only know that I know nothing. Because the human brain is programmed to think linearly, always looking for cause and effect. When trying to explain something beyond the normal cognitive capacity, we can only encapsulate it into existing concepts. Absolute wisdom cannot be framed in any system of thinking. It exists beyond the boundaries of causal logic and is always the liveliness of perception, of constant experience. Therefore, when you seek an enlightened being with the desire to hear an ultimate answer, you have set a limit for yourself. Because any answer will lead to acceptance, to a new definition, and therefore the truth will be distorted. If you continue to seek through words, you will only receive small versions of the truth, incomplete pieces, while the ultimate truth is always beyond the ability of language to express. True masters understand that if they try to convey the truth through words, the students will understand it in their own way, according to their accumulated personal experiences and beliefs. And that will cause the truth, instead of being conveyed in a living way, to be transformed into a rigid system of definitions, a doctrine that many people only believe in, without experiencing it for themselves. That is why enlightened masters often choose to remain silent, or only guide their students through meditation exercises, through their own presence, so that the students can experience and realize the truth for themselves, a truth that is not in words, but in the silence of the mind. Perhaps you have heard of Bodhidharma, the founder of Zen, who sat facing a wall for 9 years without speaking a word, leaving his students with the message that truth cannot be conveyed in words. Or perhaps you have heard of Krishna, who declared, "I only know that I know nothing," to emphasize that true understanding lies not in the accumulation of information, but in the ability to experience and perceive. These words, though simple, are immensely powerful, because they open the door for each person to face the truth for himself, to no longer depend on any system or concept. In the modern world, where everything is always framed by logic, by the principle of cause and effect, we often feel secure in being able to define and explain everything. But that very effort removes the ambiguity, diminishes the vitality of truth. When you try to articulate everything, you will only get limited versions, answers that never fully express the true nature of existence. Words, no matter how powerful, are only tools to describe a part of reality and can never contain the entire ocean of ultimate wisdom. If you are still looking for ultimate explanations from the outside, if you are longing to hear a perfect answer, stop and listen to your own heart. Ask yourself, can truth be encapsulated in a single answer, or can it only be realized through direct experience, through the silence of the soul? When you realize that every experience, every moment of awareness is a part of the truth, you will gradually let go of useless expectations. You will no longer be bound by rigid definitions, but will live with an open mind, ready to receive the liveliness of reality. If you feel that the search for a final answer to metaphysical questions is just a trap, a way for us to get stuck in the patterns of thinking, let your heart be free. Let the vivid experiences, the moments of awakening, be the inspiration for you to discover the truth for yourself. Because when you experience it yourself, when you let go of old beliefs and open your heart to the unknown, the truth will appear right before your eyes, without the need for words or explanations. Dear friend, in your journey to seek wisdom, do not be hasty to believe that knowledge imparted through books, through long lectures is enough to make you enlightened. Knowledge can be memorized, but true wisdom is a state of mind, a living awareness that can only come from personal experience. That is why masters, those who have attained enlightenment, often do not give ultimate explanations. They only guide, let students experience, so that each person can feel and realize for themselves that the truth is not outside. It always exists in the silence of the mind. When you let go of expectations, when you refuse to cling to rigid systems of thought, you will begin to realize that all questions about the universe, about existence, about death and life, they are all just temporary shells, stories created by the mind. You will see that what we call answers, tare, just small versions of an infinite truth, a truth that, if approached directly, does not need words. That is why, in every silent word of an enlightened master, there is a profound message to each student. The message that truth cannot be imprisoned in words, but can only be experienced through each individual's direct self-awareness. There is a story about a Zen student who once asked his master, "What is enlightenment?" But instead of answering, the master just smiled, just kept silent. The student continued to ask day after day, but the master still kept silent. Finally, when the meditator completely lets go of the desire to hear explanations and just lets the mind be still, then the truth appears in a moment of sublimation of awareness, no longer a specific answer, but the living presence of something beyond all words. This teaches the student that if you seek truth through words, you will only receive fragments of the truth. But if you experience it for yourself, you will realize that truth is aliveness, is the silence of the soul, is the absolute moments that cannot be expressed in any words. In our world, where the brain is programmed to use causal logic, to look for cause and effect, we often try to frame everything in familiar concepts. But the ultimate truth, the absolute intelligence, refuses to be confined to any system of thinking. It is aliveness, a state of mind that transcends all definitions. And that is why the enlightened can never fully explain it, because any answer will be limited by language, because any answer is only an interpretation of what is beyond the capacity of words. If you are still clinging to fixed concepts, if you are still looking for a final answer from the outside, remember that each person has a personal experience. Each soul has a different way of feeling. To truly understand the truth, you must dare to let go of expectations, dare to experience, and dare to discover your own path. Only when you no longer crave for an absolute answer from the outside can you begin to realize that the truth is not somewhere far away. but has always existed within you, in every quiet moment of your consciousness. Let the teachings of the Masters, the advice from those who have gone through the journey of enlightenment, become the doors that open for you. Sit down by yourself, allow yourself to experience silence, and from there, let the questions gradually dissolve, leaving you with a new awareness, an understanding that does not need to be expressed in words. Because when the truth is realized, it is no longer a concept but a living reality, beyond all boundaries of words, beyond all limitations of linear thinking. Dear friend, ask yourself, are you clinging to definitions? Or are you willing to open up, experience, and find the answers for yourself? Realize that every time you try to explain the truth in words, you are only creating a distorted version, an incomplete version of what it is. And that is why enlightened beings, those who have reached the highest level of understanding, choose to be silent, to let their hearts and souls speak for themselves through each moment of presence, through each breath of awareness. If you are still searching for a perfect definition of wisdom, stop and listen to yourself. Ask yourself, what do I really know? Is everything I have learned, everything I have heard just a small piece of a bigger picture? It is the realization that people are only beginning to understand that they do not know anything that opens the door for them to embark on a journey of discovery, of true enlightenment. When you realize that wisdom cannot be communicated in words, but can only be felt through your own presence, you will gradually let go of the desire to receive a final answer, and from there, enter a state of freedom, where all questions become meaningless, and everything is just the vividness of reality. In this world, where the rare enlightened masters choose to remain silent, you do not need to look for explanations from outside. Experience it yourself, observe it yourself, and feel it. Because only through that experience can you realize that the truth is not in words, but in silence, in the true presence of the soul. Remember, if you seek answers from books, from lectures, you are only receiving shortened versions, blurred images of the truth. But if you open your heart, if you dare to let go and experience, the truth will appear by itself, like light filtering through the cracks in the sky, like a strong belief that does not need to be expressed in words. Every day, every moment is an opportunity for you to face yourself, to realize that you were never born the way you think, and you will never die. You are only awareness, the light of inner freedom, a part of the vast universe that is never bound by time or space. And when you realize that, you will no longer need to cling to definitions or try to explain things in words, because you are ready to live in your own absolute freedom. If you are ready to step out of the endless loop of questions, if you dare to let go of the desire for perfect answers, let your heart and soul speak the truth. Live with self-awareness. Let every breath, every action of yours become an affirmation that the truth is not outside of you, but has always existed within. Let your experience become a testament to the power of true wisdom. Wisdom that needs no explanation, because it is alive, beyond all words, beyond all boundaries of language. Dear friend, open your heart, live with freedom, and trust that, in the journey of searching for truth, each person can feel and realize for themselves that the ultimate answers are just illusions, and the true truth can only be experienced through silence and through the true presence of the soul. That is why enlightened masters always choose silence, because they understand that, if they speak, the listener will only receive a small part of what they need to experience directly. And when you let go, when you no longer expect an answer from the outside, you will find that everything has become clear, that the truth has appeared by itself in every quiet moment of the mind. In the world we live in, where everyone can be caught up in prejudices, thinking patterns that have been programmed since childhood. Remember, you always have the right to choose how you want to live, how you want to experience the truth. You don't have to be limited by rigid knowledge systems, because only when you experience it yourself can you truly understand the value of silence, of free awareness. Let the lessons of the Noble Eightfold Path, the philosophies of enlightened masters inspire you, help you realize that the truth is not in words, but in experiences, in moments of awakening that do not need to be interpreted. If you feel the power of letting go, if you are ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and realize that what you have heard and read are only incomplete versions of the truth, let that be the motivation for you to move forward. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your loved ones to spread the light of self-awareness together, helping each person find their own path without being bound by any system or definition. Every moment is an opportunity for you to renew yourself, to embark on a journey of inner freedom and true wisdom. Live the way your heart desires. Let every thought, every action of yours, be a note that contributes to the symphony of life, a symphony of love, of freedom, and of faith in your own abilities. Don't let any explanation make you cling to the past. Don't let old patterns make you forget your true worth. Be brave to let go, be brave to change, and be brave to live according to your true self. If these words have touched your heart, if you are ready to step out of the limitations of your long-programmed thinking, let it be a source of motivation for you to discover the truth for yourself, so that each passing day is a victory of self-awareness, of love, and of the belief that you are always free to live the way you want. Remember, the truth cannot be fully communicated in words. It can only be experienced through silence and through the presence of your soul. So let each moment be a reminder that you are never limited by what has been programmed, and that you are always capable of creating a life that is full, meaningful, and free. Dear friend, live authentically, live freely, and win the game of reality, because you deserve the best. Let each day be a new beginning, an opportunity to reprogram your mind, to expand your soul, and to continue on the path of inner freedom, of true wisdom. Believe that every step, no matter how small, every action, no matter how simple, contributes to creating a bright future, where you are no longer governed by old patterns, where every moment is a victory of freedom and love. If these words have touched your heart, if you feel the power of letting go of invisible constraints and freely discovering the truth, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with all those who are looking for the path to live authentically and freely. Let the light of self-awareness spread, helping everyone step out of the limits of thinking, to build a world where reality is not just a destiny, but an open game, where everyone has the right and ability to win, to live fully as their true self.